I never thought I'd stand at the edge of Yosemite Valley again. Not after that April morning in 2009 when 8-year-old Lily Turner vanished into the granite wilderness and the entire country watched as they dragged me out in handcuffs, calling me the ranger who let an innocent child disappear. I can still feel the Sierra wind cutting through my uniform, hear the mother's screams echoing off El Capitan's walls, smell the wet pine and crushed wildflowers where we found her backpack. But what haunts me most? The grandmother's face. Evelyn. The media tore her apart worse than they did me. They said she was senile, reckless, that she had no business taking a child on that trail. I watched her collapse on camera, begging forgiveness from a daughter who wouldn't even look at her. They fired me within hours, called me negligent, incompetent. For 48 hours, I was the man who destroyed a family. Evelyn became the grandmother who ended her own granddaughter's life. But on that third morning, when the thermal drone picked up a heat signature in the rocks and we found Lily alive, clutching a small red painted stone, Evelyn had given her whispering, "Grandma told me to follow the light," I realized everything we thought we knew was a lie. Someone had been watching over that child the entire time. And the truth? It was more beautiful than anyone could have imagined. My name is Jack Lawson. I was a park ranger at Yosemite National Park for 12 years before that April day changed everything. This is the story of how a missing children case became a national tragedy, how an innocent grandmother was destroyed by public opinion, and how 48 hours of hell revealed something that still brings tears to my eyes today. This is the haunting story of Lily Turner and what really happened on that trail. This is a true crime story unlike any other you've heard, because this one has a miracle at its heart. April 14th, 2009 started like any other Tuesday at Yosemite. The spring snowmelt had filled the waterfalls to their peak flow. Tourists were flooding in for the season. The valley floor was carpeted with wildflowers, purple, lupins, and orange poppies painting the meadows in colors so bright they looked artificial. I was assigned to the Mist Trail, one of the most popular hikes in the park, leading groups up to Vernal Fall. It was supposed to be routine, safe. I had done this trail hundreds of times without incident. In 12 years as a ranger, I had never lost a single hiker. Not once. I prided myself on my safety record. That pride was about to be shattered. The school group from Sacramento arrived at 8:30 in the morning. 23 third graders from Riverside Elementary, 4 teachers, and a handful of parent volunteers. Among them was Lily Turner, a bright 8-year-old girl with blonde hair pulled into 2 braids, wearing a yellow raincoat that made her look like a little ray of sunshine against the gray granite. Her smile was infectious. I remember thinking she reminded me of my own daughter at that age, full of curiosity and wonder, asking questions about every rock and tree and bird we passed. What I didn't know then was that Lily's grandmother, Evelyn Turner, had insisted on joining the trip. Evelyn was 72 years old, a retired school teacher herself, and she had one dying wish: to show her granddaughter the mountains before her own health declined further. Evelyn had been diagnosed with early-stage heart disease 6 months earlier. Her doctors had given her maybe 5 years if she was careful, maybe 10 if she was lucky. She didn't want to waste a single moment. When she heard that Lily's class was planning a trip to Yosemite, she begged to come along. "Please, Heather," she had said to her daughter-in-law, "let me have this one day with her. Let me show her the waterfalls. Let me make one more memory before I can't anymore." Lily's mother, Heather Turner, had been hesitant about letting Evelyn come along. The 2 women had a strained relationship that went back years. Heather thought Evelyn was overbearing, too involved in Lily's upbringing, always trying to give advice that wasn't wanted. She thought her mother-in-law was too old, too frail, too unpredictable for a wilderness hike. But Lily adored her grandmother. She begged her mother for weeks, "Please let Grandma come. She wants to see the waterfalls with me. She told me about when Daddy was little and they went camping. I want to hear those stories. Please, Mom, please." Eventually, Heather gave in, but with strict instructions. "Stay with the group. Don't wander. Hold Lily's hand the entire time. If anything happens to her, if she gets even a scratch, I will never forgive you." Those words would haunt both women for years to come. The hike began smoothly. The children were excited, pointing at squirrels darting between the Jeffrey pines, asking questions about the granite formations that make Yosemite one of the most geologically fascinating places on Earth. They wanted to know how old the rocks were. 400 million years, I told them. They wanted to know how the valley was formed. Glaciers, massive rivers of ice that carved through solid stone. They wanted to know if bears lived here. Yes, black bears, but they're more scared of you than you are of them. The questions came rapid fire, and I loved every one of them. This was why I became a ranger, to share this place with people who had never seen anything like it. I remember watching Evelyn and Lily together near the footbridge that crosses the Merced River. They had stopped to take a picture, grandmother and granddaughter with their arms around each other, El Capitan rising behind them like a cathedral wall. Lily was showing her grandmother something in her pocket. It was a small stone, painted bright red with white dots, like a little mushroom from a fairy tale. Evelyn had given it to her that morning as a good luck charm. She told Lily, if you ever get lost, hold this stone and follow the light. Grandma will always guide you home. I heard her say those words. I had no idea how prophetic they would become. At 9:45, we reached the mist zone where the spray from vernal fall creates a constant rainbow when the sun hits it just right. The trail gets slippery here from the perpetual moisture. Moss grows on the granite steps. Water runs in rivulets across the path. I always tell groups to slow down, watch their footing, stay together. Tiki, Yochimi, there's no rush. The waterfall isn't going anywhere. The children were wearing ponchos, laughing as the cold mist soaked their faces and plastered their hair to their heads. They were having the time of their lives. Evelyn and Lily were toward the middle of the group, still hand in hand, still smiling. I counted heads like I always did. 23 children, all accounted for. For teachers, all present, 7 parent volunteers, including Evelyn. Everyone was there. Everyone was safe. I had counted heads at 8:45 when we left the trailhead. I counted again at 9:15 when we stopped for a water break. I counted at 9:45 in the mist zone. Every 15 minutes, like clockwork, I counted. It was protocol. It was habit. It was how you kept people safe in the wilderness. And every time I counted, Lily Turner was there, until she wasn't. At 10:03 in the morning, everything changed. One of the teachers, Mrs. Patricia Holbrook, a veteran educator with 30 years of experience, noticed that Lily wasn't with Evelyn anymore. She called out, her voice cutting through the sound of rushing water. "Where's Lily? Where's the little girl in the yellow raincoat?" Evelyn's face went white as snow. The color drained from her cheeks so fast I thought she might faint. She had been tying her shoe just for 30 seconds. Maybe 40. She had let go of Lily's hand to tie her shoe on a flat rock. And when she looked up, expecting to see her granddaughter right there, watching the rainbow in the mist, Lily was gone. The panic was immediate and overwhelming. Teachers started screaming Lily's name, their voices high and desperate. Children began crying, sensing that something was terribly wrong. The festive atmosphere of the field trip evaporated in an instant, replaced by raw fear. I grabbed my radio with shaking hands and called for backup, my voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding my system. "We have a code yellow missing child on the mist trail. 8-year-old female, blonde hair in braids, yellow raincoat, pink backpack. Last seen at the mist zone approximately 3 minutes ago. Need all available units immediately." Code yellow? Those 2 words would dominate my life for the next 48 hours. Code yellow meant missing child. The worst possible situation a ranger could face. Worse than bear attacks. Worse than rock falls. Worse than anything. Because a missing child meant a family was about to be destroyed. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. I ordered everyone to stop moving. Nobody leaves this area. Stay exactly where you are. We form a search perimeter right now. The teachers gathered the children into a tight group, trying to keep them calm while their own faces betrayed their terror. Parent volunteers spread out in a circle around the mist zone, calling Lily's name, peering behind boulders and into crevices. Evelyn stood frozen, her hands trembling so badly she couldn't hold them still. She kept touching the spot where Lily had been standing, as if the child might somehow materialize if she just believed hard enough. Within 6 minutes, 2 more rangers arrived. Within 10 minutes, we had 5 rangers and 3 park maintenance workers forming a grid search pattern. Every adult took a section of trail, working outward from the last known location in concentric circles. We searched behind boulders, under fallen logs, along the creek banks where the current was strong enough to sweep away a child in seconds. We called Lily's name until our voices went hoarse, the sound of 20 adults shouting mixing with the roar of the waterfall. And we found nothing. No yellow raincoat, no pink backpack, no sign that an 8-year-old girl had ever been there at all. The sound of a mother's worst nightmare began to echo through that canyon. Heather Turner, who had been waiting at the trailhead parking lot to meet the group for lunch, heard the radio chatter on the park's emergency frequency. Child missing, missed trail, yellow raincoat. She knew, even before anyone said the name, she knew it was Lily. A mother knows. She came running up the trail, not walking, not jogging, but sprinting with a speed born of pure terror, her hiking boots slipping on whetstone as she screamed her daughter's name with a desperation that still makes my chest tight. 6 years later, when Heather saw Evelyn standing there, pale and shaking and staring at nothing, she lost control. The rage that erupted from her was primal, the sound of a wounded animal. This is your fault. I told you not to take your eyes off her for even 1 second. What did you do? Where is my daughter? What did you do to my baby? The accusation hung in the air like smoke from a wildfire. Evelyn couldn't speak. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She just stood there, tears streaming down her face, her hands trembling as she clutched Lily's little pink backpack that had been left behind when the child wandered off. Inside the backpack was Lily's lunch, her water bottle, her favorite stuffed bunny, everything except Lily herself. By 11:15 in the morning, the Yosemite Search and Rescue Team had mobilized their full emergency response protocol. This was Yuante, lost hiker who had wandered off trail and would probably turn up in an hour. This was a missing child, and every second mattered. The statistics on missing children are brutal and unforgiving. The first 3 hours are critical. After 24 hours, the chances of finding a child alive drop to less than 50%. After 48 hours, most missing children cases become recovery missions, not rescue missions. Everyone in that park knew those statistics. Nobody said them out loud, but they hung over us like a thundercloud. By noon, we had 50 volunteers combing every inch of trail within a 1-mile radius of the mist zone. Hikers who had been planning a leisurely day in nature found themselves enlisted in a desperate search. Rock climbers rappelled down cliff faces to check ledges. Trail runners covered miles of backcountry paths at speeds that would have been impressive under any circumstances. Everyone wanted to help. Everyone wanted to be the one who found Lily Turner and brought her home safe. By 1 in the afternoon, helicopters were circling overhead with thermal imaging cameras that could detect body heat through dense forest canopy. The choppers made wide sweeping passes over the wilderness, their pilots scanning screens for any sign of a small human shape in the vastness of granite and pine. But Yosemite is enormous. 750 square miles of wilderness. A child could be anywhere or nowhere. By 2 in the afternoon, the media had arrived. News vans from Sacramento, San Francisco, even Los Angeles made the 3-hour drive and lined the parking lot like an invasion force. Reporters with microphones and cameramen with shoulder-mounted cameras pushed through the crowd of terrified parents waiting for updates. The story was already going national. 8-year-old Lily Turner, missing in Yosemite National Park, last seen wearing a yellow raincoat, vanished without a trace during a school field trip. Grandmother was supposed to be watching her. Park ranger in charge of the group. The headlines wrote themselves, and they destroyed 2 lives in the process. And by 3 that afternoon, less than 5 hours after Lily disappeared, the FBI arrived. Special Agent Monica Reyes stepped out of a black SUV wearing a dark pantsuit and an expression that said she had seen this story before and knew how it usually ended. was with the FBI's Crimes Against Children unit, based out of the San Francisco field office. She specialized in missing children cases and child abduction, which meant she had investigated more heartbreak than most people could imagine. She took over the command center that had been set up in the Curry Village amphitheater, spreading maps across tables, organizing search teams into grids, and beginning the methodical process of interviewing every single person who had been on that trail. Every teacher was interviewed for over an hour. What time did you arrive? Where were you standing when the child disappeared? Did you see anyone suspicious? Did you notice the grandmother let go of her hand? How long was the child out of sight? The questions were relentless and necessary. Every parent volunteer was interviewed. Every child was gently questioned. Park rangers sitting with them, asking if they remembered seeing Lily, if they saw where she went, if anyone talked to her or touched her or tried to lead her away. The children were scared and confused. Most of them couldn't remember anything useful. A few said they saw Lily looking at a butterfly. One boy said he saw her walk toward the rocks. Another girl said she heard someone call Lily's name, but she didn't know who. And then Agent Reyes interviewed me for over 3 hours straight. We sat in a small office in the ranger station, the walls covered with topographical maps and safety posters, while she asked me questions that felt like accusations wrapped in professional courtesy. Where were you standing when she disappeared? Angelo-san. Right at the front of the group, leading them through the mist zone. How often do you count the children during these hikes? Every 15 minutes, like clockwork. Did you count them in the mist zone? Yes, at 9:45. And everyone was there? Yes, all 23 children. So you're telling me that between 9:45 and 10:03, an 8-year-old child vanished from a group of 34 people without anyone noticing? I didn't know how to answer that because when she said it like that, it sounded impossible. It sounded like negligence. It sounded like someone had failed. Did you notice anyone suspicious on the trail that morning, Ranger Lawson? No, just regular tourists and hikers. Did you see any vehicles parked in unusual locations? No. Have you ever had inappropriate contact with children? The question hit me like a punch to the stomach. No. Never. Do you have a criminal record? No. Have you ever been accused of misconduct? No. Where were you standing when the grandmother let go of the child's hand? About 15 feet ahead, helping another child tie their shoe. So you weren't watching the grandmother and the child at that exact moment. I was watching the whole group, but you weren't watching that specific child at that specific moment. I was in front of them, leading the group. So the answer is no, you weren't watching. The questions felt like a trap, no matter how I answered them. The interview went on for hours. Agent Reyes asked me about my work history, my personal life, my relationships, my finances. She asked if I had debts, if I had been drinking, if I was having marital problems, if I had any reason to be distracted that day. She asked if I knew the Turner family before the field trip. She asked if I had ever seen Lily before. She asked if I had noticed anything unusual about Evelyn Turner's behavior. The questions were standard procedure for a missing child investigation, but they felt like knives. By the end of the interview, I realized something that made my blood run cold. They suspected me, not officially, not enough to arrest me, but enough to keep digging. Enough to make my life hell. But the person who truly suffered was Evelyn Turner. Agent Reyes interviewed her for 4 hours, 4 hours of questions that must have felt like torture. Why did you let go of her hand? I was tying my shoe. How long were you not holding her hand? Maybe 30 seconds. Maybe 40. I don't know. It felt like no time at all. Do you have any medical conditions that affect your awareness? I have heart disease, but I take medication. It doesn't affect my mind. Were you feeling tired or disoriented on the hike? No, I felt fine. Have you ever lost track of Lily before? Never. Not once. Do you use any medications that cause drowsiness? Just heart medication, nothing that makes me sleepy. Why did you insist on coming on this trip despite your daughter-in-law's concerns? Because I love my granddaughter. Because I wanted one more memory with her before my heart gives out. Because I thought I had time. The media got hold of Evelyn's medical records somehow. Privacy laws be damned. Someone leaked that she had heart disease. that she was on medication, that Heather had objected to her coming on the trip. By 6 that evening, cable news was running stories with headlines that made me sick to read. Grandmother's fatal mistake. Did heart condition cause tragic lapse? Family warned her not to come. One particularly cruel reporter stood outside the Turner family home, a modest suburban house with a tire swing in the front yard, and said 2 camera sources close to the family say the grandmother is elderly and may have mobility issues that affected her ability to keep track of the child. Questions are being raised tonight about whether she should have been responsible for an 8-year-old in such a dangerous environment. The implication was clear. This was Evelyn's fault. An old woman who couldn't keep up, who couldn't stay focused, who couldn't hold on to a child's hand for more than 30 seconds. Evelyn watched those broadcasts from a hotel room near the park, the Paradise Inn, a small family-run place where the owner was kind enough to give her a room away from the media circus. Heather wouldn't let her come back to their house that was being used as a family gathering point, wouldn't take her calls, wouldn't even look at her. I saw Evelyn that night in the hotel lobby around 9 o'clock. I had stopped by to drop off some personal items that had been left at the command center. She was sitting alone in a corner chair, still wearing the same hiking clothes from that morning, now rumpled and stained with tears and dirt. She looked like a ghost. Her hands were still shaking. She kept saying the same thing over and over, whispering to herself like a prayer or a confession. I only looked away for 30 seconds. Just 30 seconds to tie my shoe. How could she vanish in 30 seconds? How is that possible? Where did she go? Where is my baby girl? I sat with her for a few minutes. I didn't know what to say. What can you say to someone whose whole world has just collapsed? I tried to offer comfort. We're going to find her, Mrs. Turner. We have the best search and rescue teams in the country working right now. We have helicopters with thermal imaging. We have dogs. We have hundreds of volunteers. We're going to bring Lily home. But even as I said the words, I didn't know if I believed them, because I had seen the terrain. I knew how many places a child could fall, could hide, could be hidden. I knew how fast hypothermia could set in at night when temperatures dropped. I knew that if Lily was injured and couldn't call for help, we might never find her. Evelyn looked at me with eyes that had aged 20 years in one day. Do you think she's alive? Hanger-Lasan? Tell me the truth. Do you think my granddaughter is still alive? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to promise her that everything would be okay. But I couldn't lie to her. I don't know, Mrs. Turner. I honestly don't know, but I know we won't stop looking. We won't stop until we find her. She nodded slowly and went back to staring at her hands, at the empty space where Lily's small fingers should have been. I didn't sleep that night. Nobody involved in the search slept. I stayed at the command center with the overnight search teams, going over maps with red marker, reviewing witness statements for the 100th time, trying to find something we had missed. A clue, a pattern, anything that would tell us where Lily had gone. The park superintendent, a gruff man named Harold Chun, who had been with the Park Service for 30 years, called me into his office at 2 in the morning. The office smelled like coffee and stress. Jack, I need to ask you something directly, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Did you do everything by protocol today? I told him, yes, absolutely. Did you count the children regularly? Yes, every 15 minutes, like I always do. Did you notice anything unusual about the group or the trail conditions? No, nothing out of the ordinary. Were you distracted at any point during the hike? No, I was focused the entire time. He looked at me for a long time before speaking again. I believe you, Jack. I've known you for 12 years and you've never given me a reason not to trust you. But the media won't believe you. The FBI might not believe you, and the Turner family definitely won't believe you. They're going to come after you. They're going to say you weren't paying attention. They're going to blame you for this because someone has to be blamed. That's how these things work. He was right. He was absolutely right. And I hated him for saying it out loud because it made the nightmare real. Dawn came slowly on April 15th, the second day of the search. I watched the sun rise over Half Dome from the command center, painting the granite walls in shades of pink and gold that would have been beautiful under any other circumstances. But that morning, the sunrise just meant we had been searching for 24 hours and found nothing. The first critical window had closed. The statistics were now against us. The search expanded dramatically that second day. We had 300 volunteers by 7 in the morning, some of them locals who knew the park intimately, others who had driven from as far away as Oregon and Arizona when they heard about the missing child. There's something about a missing child case that mobilizes people in ways that other tragedies don't. Maybe it's because we all imagined it could be our child. Maybe it's because children represent innocence and hope. Maybe it's just because the thought of a little girl alone and scared in the wilderness is unbearable. Whatever the reason, people came. They came in droves. We had 20 park rangers working 12-hour shifts. We had 12 FBI agents coordinating with local law enforcement. We had K-9 units from 3 different counties. German shepherds and bloodhounds with noses sensitive enough to track a scent days old. We had 2 helicopters in the air from dawn until dusk, making passes over every canyon and valley within 10 miles of the mist zone. It was the largest search operation in Yosemite's history, larger even than the search for a group of hikers who had been caught in an avalanche back in '98. The dogs had picked up Lily's scent near the mist zone where she disappeared, which we already knew. They followed it about 50 yards down the trail toward a rocky outcrop that jutted out over the valley below. But then the scent just stopped. Vanished. As if Lily had sprouted wings and flown away, or as if someone had picked her up and carried her. That second possibility was the one that terrified everyone because it meant this might not be an accident. It might be an abduction. The FBI was now treating this as a potential kidnapping case, which changed everything. They set up roadblocks at every exit from Yosemite Valley. Rangers and police officers stopped every vehicle leaving the park, looking in trunks, checking IDs, asking if anyone had seen a blonde girl in a yellow raincoat. They reviewed security footage from every camera in the park, all 14 of them, looking for suspicious vehicles or individuals. They interviewed every single person who had checked into a campground or hotel within 50 miles in the 72 hours before Lily disappeared. They created a timeline of every vehicle that had entered or left the park between 6 in the morning and 6 in the evening. On April 14, over 800 vehicles that needed to be tracked down and cleared. Special Agent Reyes held a press conference at 10 in the morning on that second day. The amphitheater was packed with reporters, cameras, and satellite trucks. She stood at a podium with a photo of Lily Turner blown up to poster size beside her. Lily's school picture. The one with her gap-toothed smile and her blonde braids tied with pink ribbons. The picture that would be on every news channel and newspaper for the next week. We are conducting an extensive search for 8-year-old Lily Turner, who disappeared yesterday morning from the Mist Trail in Yosemite National Park. Lily was last seen wearing a yellow raincoat, blue jeans, pink hiking boots, and carrying a pink backpack. She has blonde hair, blue eyes, and a small birthmark on her left wrist shaped like a heart. We are asking anyone who was in Yosemite on April 14th between 8 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon to contact us if they saw anything unusual. We are exploring all possibilities, including that Lily may have wandered off trail and become lost, that she may have fallen and been injured, or that she may have been taken by someone. We are not ruling anything out at this time. Agent Reyes paused and looked directly into the cameras. Lily, if you can hear this, we are looking for you. Your mom and dad love you very much. Your grandma loves you. Everyone wants you to come home. Stay where you are if you're hurt. Stay warm if you can. We will find you. But the questions from reporters were brutal. Agent Reyes, do you suspect foul play in this disappearance? We are investigating all possibilities. Is the park ranger who is leading the group a suspect? We are interviewing everyone who was present at the time of the disappearance. Is the grandmother who was supposed to be watching Lily a person of interest? We are gathering information from all witnesses. Have you found any evidence of abduction? We have found no conclusive evidence of abduction at this time, but we are treating this as a potential criminal case out of an abundance of caution. The questions went on for 20 minutes, each one more invasive than the last, each one turning a tragedy into a spectacle, and the media coverage was absolutely relentless. CNN had a reporter doing live broadcasts from the park every hour on the hour. Anderson Cooper devoted an entire segment to the case, bringing in child safety experts and former FBI profilers to discuss what might have happened. Fox News ran a special titled Lost in Yosemite, the search for Lily Turner, with dramatic music and aerial shots of the wilderness. MSNBC brought in a psychologist to analyze the grandmother's behavior and question whether elderly caregivers should be allowed to supervise children in dangerous environments. Every network, every cable channel, every news website ran the story as their top headline, and every single story mentioned me by name. Jack Lawson, the park ranger in charge. Jack Lawson, who had 12 years of experience but somehow lost a child on a routine hike. Jack Lawson, who was currently being interviewed by the FBI. I wasn't under investigation. Not officially. Not yet. But the implication was there in every news report, in every question Agent Reyes asked me, in every look I got from other rangers. The unspoken accusation. How did you let this happen? The interviews continued. Agent Reyes called me back in for a second round of questioning that afternoon. We sat in the same office, the same maps on the walls, the same fluorescent lights humming overhead, but this time the questions were sharper, more direct, more accusatory. Angel Lassan, I've reviewed your personnel file. Yes. Mom, you've been a ranger at Yosemite for 12 years? Yes. In those 12 years, you've led approximately 1,500 guided hikes. That sounds about right. And in 1,500 hikes, you've never had a single incident, never lost a hiker, never had a serious injury, never had a complaint filed against you. That's correct. So what was different about April 14th? Nothing. It was a routine school group hike, same as dozens I've done before. Was there anything different about this group specifically? No. Was there anything different about your behavior or mental state that day? No. I felt fine. Normal. Were you having any personal problems that might have distracted you? No. Relationship issues? No. My wife and I are fine. Financial problems? No. Health problems? No. Substance abuse problems? Absolutely not. She paused and looked at me hard. Then, help me understand, Hanje Losa. How does an experienced ranger with a perfect safety record lose a child in broad daylight on a heavily trafficked trail? I didn't have an answer for her. I still don't, because the truth is, I don't know how it happened. One moment Lily was there, and the next moment she wasn't. 30 seconds? Maybe 40? That's all it took for a child to vanish without a trace. And that fact, that impossible, inexplicable fact, would haunt me for the rest of my life. But Agent Reyes wasn't done. She asked if I had ever met the Turner family before the field trip. She asked if I knew Evelyn Turner personally. She asked if I had any connection to Riverside Elementary School. She asked for my phone records, my credit card statements, my work schedule for the past 6 months. She asked if I would consent to a polygraph test. I said yes to everything because I had nothing to hide. But every question, every request, every implication made it clearer. I was a suspect. Maybe not the primary suspect, but I was on their list. And in missing children cases, being on the FBI's list means your life is over, even if you're innocent. The park superintendent placed me on administrative leave that afternoon. It's just temporary, Jack. Just until we have answers and the investigation is complete. Just until the media attention dies down. But we both knew what that meant. I was being removed not because I had done anything wrong, but because I was a liability. Because if something terrible had happened to Lily Turner, the National Park Service needed to distance itself from me. They needed to be able to say we took immediate action. I turned in my badge and my radio and walked out of that ranger station, feeling like I had been gutted. 12 years of service, 12 years of keeping people safe, 12 years of loving this park and protecting it. Gone in an instant because of 30 seconds I will never be able to explain. But the person who truly suffered, The person who was being absolutely crucified by public opinion was Evelyn Turner. On the afternoon of the second day, Heather Turner gave a press conference that would destroy her mother-in-law's life. The press conference was held in front of the Turner family home, microphones and cameras crowding the front lawn where Lily used to play. Heather stood on her porch, her face swollen from crying, her voice breaking with every word. She was flanked by her husband David, Lily's father, who looked like he hadn't slept in days. And she said the words that would echo across every news channel in America. My daughter is missing because of a series of failures that never should have happened. My mother-in-law, Evelyn Tuvner, insisted on coming on this school trip against my better judgment. I told her she was too old. I told her she wasn't capable of watching an active 8-year-old on a dangerous trail. I begged her not to come, but she insisted. She said she could handle it. She said she wanted one last adventure with Lily, and now my baby is gone. My mother-in-law was responsible for watching my daughter. She let go of her hand. She took her eyes off her for what she claims was only 30 seconds. And in those 30 seconds, my daughter vanished. If she had just listened to me, if she had just stayed home like I asked, Lily would still be here. Lily would be safe. And instead, I don't know if my daughter is alive or dead. I don't know if I'll ever see her again. And I will never forgive the person who let this happen. The media ran with it like wolves on a wounded deer. Grandmother blamed for granddaughter's disappearance. Mother says she warned grandmother not to come on trip. Family torn apart by tragic mistake. Grandmother's insistence led to disaster. The headlines were brutal and unforgiving. And the internet was even crueler. Social media posts called Evelyn a murderer, a child killer, a reckless old woman who should never have been allowed near children. People found her home address and sent hate mail, letters calling her every vile name imaginable. Someone found her phone number and called in the middle of the night, screaming at her, threatening her. Someone spray-painted harmful accusations were vandalized on her property, on her car, in the hotel parking lot. She had to leave the Paradise Inn and go into hiding because of serious threats against her safety. I tried to reach out to Evelyn that evening. I felt a kinship with her. Two people being blamed for a tragedy neither of us could have prevented. I called her hotel room. No answer. I went to the Paradise Inn lobby. The desk clerk said she had checked out that afternoon, paid in cash, left in a hurry. Nobody knew where she had gone. Her cell phone went straight to voicemail. She had vanished almost as completely as her granddaughter, consumed by guilt and grief and the cruelty of strangers who did not know her but felt entitled to judge her. Later, I would learn the details of Evelyn's flight from public crucifixion. She had disconnected her phone, withdrawn cash from her bank account to avoid leaving a digital trail, and checked into a small motel 40 miles outside the park under a false name. She wasn't running from the investigation. She had given Agent Reyes all her contact information. She was running from the hatred, from the death threats, from the knowledge that her own daughter-in-law blamed her for destroying the family. She sat alone in that motel room, watching the news coverage that painted her as a villain, and contemplated whether the world would be better off if she simply disappeared. Those were her words, spoken to me years later when she finally found the strength to talk about those 48 hours. I thought about just driving away and never coming back. I thought about ending my own life because the guilt was so overwhelming I couldn't breathe. But then I remembered what I told Lily that morning. If you ever get lost, hold this stone and follow the light. Grandma will always guide you home. And I realized I couldn't leave her. Even if she was gone, even if they never found her, I couldn't abandon my granddaughter. By the end of the second day, the search teams had expanded their radius to 15 miles. They were now searching areas that seemed impossible for an 8-year-old child to reach on foot. Steep canyons, dense forest, rocky slopes that would challenge an experienced hiker, let alone a small girl in a yellow raincoat. The helicopters had covered over 200 square miles of wilderness with thermal imaging cameras. The dogs had tracked scents down dozens of dead-end paths. Divers had searched every accessible section of the Merced River, dragging the deeper pools where a body might have sunk. Nobody said the word body out loud, but it hung over every conversation like smoke. On the morning of the third day, April 16th, the search strategy changed. Agent Reyes called a briefing at dawn with all the search coordinators, FBI agents, rangers, and volunteer leaders. I wasn't officially supposed to be there, being on administrative leave, but I showed up anyway. Nobody had the heart to turn me away. The amphitheater was full of exhausted people who had been searching for 48 hours straight. Faces were drawn, eyes were red, coffee cups were everywhere. And Agent Reyes stood at the front with a map covered in red X marks, showing everywhere they had already searched. We need to face reality. We have searched every reasonable location within a 15-mile radius of the last known sighting. We have found no evidence, no clothing, no tracks, no scent trail that leads anywhere conclusive. We have interviewed over 300 witnesses and reviewed hundreds of hours of security footage. We have investigated every registered sex offender within a 100-mile radius. We have checked every vehicle that entered or left the park that day, and we have found nothing. At this point, statistically speaking, we are no longer looking for a living child. We are looking for evidence of what happened to her. The words hit like a physical blow. We are no longer looking for a living child. It was the confirmation of what everyone had been thinking, but nobody wanted to say. After 48 hours in the Sierra Nevada wilderness, with nighttime temperatures dropping into the 30s, with no shelter, no food, no water, the chances of Lily Turner being alive were almost zero. The search was now a recovery mission. They were looking for a body. Heather Turner collapsed when she heard the news. She was at the command center with David, waiting for updates, clinging to hope that was rapidly slipping away. When Agent Reyes gently told them that the focus of the search was shifting, that they were bringing in cadaver dogs, that they were searching areas where a child might have fallen and been unable to call for help, Heather's legs simply gave out. She fell to her knees on the concrete floor, screaming her daughter's name, begging God or the universe or anyone who was listening to bring her baby back. David held her, both of them sobbing, both of them knowing that their daughter was most likely dead and they would never know what happened to her. The cadaver dogs arrived at 8 in the morning on that third day. These were specialized K9 units trained to detect the scent of human decomposition, a scent that most people don't know lingers for years in soil and on objects. The dogs were German Shepherds and Belgian Malinois, serious working animals with handlers who had decades of experience in recovery operations. They worked in a methodical grid pattern, starting from the mist zone and moving outward, their noses to the ground, searching for the one smell that would end this nightmare with the worst possible answer. I watched them work from a distance. Standing near the footbridge where Lily and Evelyn had taken their last photo together, I felt completely hollow inside, numb, like I was watching everything happen from underwater. I kept replaying that morning in my head, over and over, trying to find the moment where I could have prevented this. Should I have counted heads more frequently than every 15 minutes? Should I have assigned each child to a specific adult instead of letting the group move organically? Should I have made Evelyn hold Lily's hand even while tying her shoe? Should I have canceled the hike entirely when I saw how crowded the trail was that morning? The should-haves were endless and useless and absolutely tormenting. At 9:47 in the morning, one of the thermal imaging helicopters picked up something unusual, a heat signature in a cluster of rocks about 3/4 of a mile from the mist zone. In an area that ground teams had already searched twice but found nothing, the signature was small, child-sized, and it was warm. Warmer than the surrounding rocks. Warmer than it should be if it was just solar heating. The pilot radioed down to the command center with controlled excitement in his voice. "I have a possible contact. Grid section 7, Alpha, heat signature, approximately 30 by 20 inches. Body temperature range. Stationary. Need ground team to investigate immediately." The response was instantaneous. A 12-person rescue team scrambled to the coordinates, moving faster than safety protocols normally allowed, because this might be it. This might be the moment. 3 rangers, 4 FBI agents, 2 paramedics, 3 volunteer search specialists, all racing through the forest toward those GPS coordinates while the helicopter circled overhead, keeping the thermal camera locked on that small heat signature. I ran with them. I wasn't supposed to. I wasn't officially part of the search team anymore. But I ran anyway, crashing through underbrush, jumping over fallen logs, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Please let her be alive. Please let her be okay. Please let this not be the worst outcome. The prayer repeated in my head with every footfall. When we reached the location, we found something that stopped us all in our tracks. There was a small natural alcove formed by 3 massive granite boulders leaning against each other, creating a space about 4 feet high and 6 feet deep. The entrance was partially hidden by a manzanita bush, which is why ground searchers had missed it. You had to be at exactly the right angle to see that there was a gap in the rocks. And inside that gap, curled up in a ball, wearing a filthy yellow raincoat, was Lily Turner. She was alive. The relief was so overwhelming that one of the agents actually fell to his knees. The paramedics moved in immediately, calling her name softly, checking for injuries, looking for signs of hypothermia or dehydration or trauma. Lily, sweetie, we're here to help you. You're safe now. Can you hear us? Can you tell us your name? Lily's eyes were open, but she seemed dazed, disoriented, like someone waking from a deep sleep. Her lips were chapped and cracked. Her face was streaked with dirt. Her hands were scratched and bruised. But she was alive. She was breathing. She was warm. The first paramedic, a woman named Sarah Chun, who had been doing wilderness rescue for 15 years, performed a rapid assessment. Pulse is strong. Respirations are good. She's cold but not hypothermic. No obvious broken bones. She's responsive to verbal stimuli. She kept talking to Lily in a calm, gentle voice while checking her over. Lily, you did such a good job staying safe. You're a very brave girl. We're going to take care of you now. We're going to take you to your mom and dad. They've been looking for you everywhere. And then Lily spoke. Her voice was hoarse and quiet, barely more than a whisper, but the words were clear. Grandma told me to follow the light. I held my stone and followed the light. She opened her small fist to show us what she was holding, the little red painted stone with white dots that Evelyn had given her that morning, clutched so tightly it had left an imprint on her palm. One of the FBI agents asked gently, trying to understand what had happened. Lily, how did you get here? Can you remember? Lily nodded slowly. I saw a butterfly, a really pretty blue one. I wanted to show Grandma, but she was tying her shoe. So I followed the butterfly just for a minute. But then I couldn't see the trail anymore. I couldn't see Grandma. I called for her, but the waterfall was too loud. And then I was scared and I started walking, but I didn't know which way to go. And then I slipped. I slid down some rocks and I couldn't climb back up. And I was really scared. But then I remembered what Grandma said. If you ever get lost, hold this stone and follow the light. What light, sweetie? What light did you follow? The agent was trying to piece together how a child had survived 48 hours alone. The lights at night, the flashlights, I could see them moving in the trees. I tried to call out, but my voice was too tired. So I followed the lights until I found this cave, and it was warm in here, out of the wind, and I could still see the lights outside. I knew the lights were people looking for me. I knew Grandma sent them. So I stayed here and waited. I knew Grandma would find me. She promised. The search teams, the flashlights from the overnight search teams had been visible to her from this alcove. And instead of panicking, instead of wandering further into the wilderness, Lily had done the smartest possible thing. She had found shelter and stayed put. The red stone had given her hope. The memory of her grandmother's words had given her courage. And somehow, impossibly, miraculously, she had survived. The rescue was textbook perfect. The paramedics wrapped Lily in thermal blankets, gave her small sips of water to avoid shock to her system, checked her vital signs every 2 minutes. One of the agents radioed the command center. We have her. Lily Turner is alive. Repeat, the child is alive and responsive. Prepare for immediate medical transport. Within minutes, the rescue helicopter was landing in the nearest clearing, rotors thundering, kicking up dust and pine needles. They loaded Lily onto a stretcher, still wrapped in blankets, still holding her red stone. And as they lifted her into the helicopter, I saw her smile, a small, tired, beautiful smile. The scene at the command center when word came through was pure chaos, joyful, tearful, overwhelming chaos. Heather Turner, who had been preparing herself for the worst news a mother could receive, heard those words, "The child is alive," and she simply screamed, a raw, primal sound of relief and gratitude and disbelief. She ran toward the helicopter landing zone, David running beside her, both of them sobbing and laughing at the same time. When Lily was unloaded from the helicopter and they saw their daughter alive, saw her smile, saw her reach out her arms for them, they fell apart. The family embraced on that landing pad while cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions, and nobody cared about anything except that this little girl was alive and going home. Lily was transported to Mercy Hospital in Sacramento for evaluation. The doctors found that she had mild dehydration, several scrapes and bruises, and early-stage hypothermia, but nothing life-threatening. She had survived 48 hours in the wilderness through a combination of luck, intelligence, in the shelter of those granite boulders that had protected her from wind and rain. The doctors called it a miracle. The media called it the Yosemite miracle, and everyone wanted to know how an 8-year-old child had managed to do what seemed impossible. But there was one person who didn't get to share in that joyful reunion. Evelyn Turner. Nobody knew where she was. Her phone was still disconnected. She had checked out of the motel and vanished. The FBI tried to locate her to tell her that Lily was safe, that her granddaughter was alive, that the nightmare was over. But Evelyn was gone. She had been gone for over 18 hours by the time Lily was found. And in those 18 hours, consumed by guilt and grief and the hatred of strangers who blamed her for destroying a family, Evelyn had driven to a place she knew from her childhood, a small lake in the Sierra foothills about 90 miles from Yosemite, where her father used to take her fishing when she was a little girl. She parked her car by the water's edge. She sat on the shore watching the sun set over the mountains, and she wrote a letter to Lily, a letter that would later be found on the front seat of her car, explaining everything she wished she could have said. "My darling Lily, I am so sorry. I am sorry I let go of your hand. I am sorry I wasn't strong enough or fast enough or careful enough to keep you safe. I am sorry that my one moment of carelessness might have taken you from this world. I loved you more than anything. Being your grandmother was the greatest joy of my life. Every tea party, every story, every hug, every time you called me Grandma was a gift I didn't deserve. I wanted one more adventure with you before my heart gave out. I wanted to show you the mountains and the waterfalls and the wild places that made me feel small and grateful and alive. But I failed you, and I can never forgive myself for that. Please know that wherever you are, I am so, so sorry. And I hope that someday you can forgive me, even though I never will. I love you forever and always, Grandma." She had intended to walk into that lake, to let the water take her, to end the guilt and the pain and the unbearable weight of being blamed for a child's death. But before she could, her phone, which she had turned back on for just a moment to check the time, started ringing. It was Agent Reyes, and the words that came through that phone saved Evelyn's life. "Mrs. Turner, we found her. Lily is alive. She's safe. She's asking for you." Evelyn collapsed on the shore of that lake and sobbed for 20 minutes straight. Relief and disbelief and overwhelming gratitude poured out of her in waves. She drove back to Sacramento faster than was safe or legal, not caring about speed limits or traffic laws or anything except getting to her granddaughter. She arrived at Mercy Hospital at 3 in the afternoon, still wearing the same hiking clothes from 3 days ago, her face ravaged by tears and sleeplessness. And when she walked into Lily's hospital room, when she saw that little girl sitting up in bed with an IV in her arm and a smile on her face, Evelyn thought her heart might actually stop. "Grandma," Lily's voice was stronger now, rehydrated and rested. "You came. I knew you would come. I held my stone just like you told me. I followed the lights just like you said. You saved me, Grandma. You saved me." And Heather Turner, who had spent 3 days blaming her mother-in-law for destroying her family, who had said unforgivable things on national television, looked at Evelyn standing in that doorway and realized something. Her daughter was alive because of what Evelyn had taught her. The red stone. The words about following the lights. The message about staying calm and waiting for rescue. Those lessons had saved Lily's life. and Heather had blamed the one person who had actually given her daughter the tools to survive. The reconciliation between Heather and Evelyn happened slowly, over weeks and months, through family therapy and long conversations and the gradual healing that comes after trauma. But it began in that hospital room when Heather stood up, walked across the floor, and embraced her mother-in-law while they both cried, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I said. You didn't deserve that. None of this was your fault." And Evelyn, who had been prepared to die believing she had destroyed her family, felt something she thought she would never feel again. Forgiveness? The media circus around Lily's rescue was intense. Every network wanted interviews. Every newspaper wanted exclusive stories. The Today Show, Good Morning America, Vinci Avus, 60 Minutes, Ellen. Everyone wanted the Yosemite Miracle family, but Heather and David Turner, with Evelyn's full support, made a decision. They would do one interview, one detailed account of what happened, and then they would go home and try to rebuild their private lives away from cameras and questions. They chose a local Sacramento news station, a respected journalist named Maria Santos who had covered the story with compassion rather than... The interview aired 2 weeks after Lily was found. The family sat together on a couch, Lily between her parents, Evelyn sitting close beside them, holding Lily's hand. And they told the whole story, how Evelyn had given Lily the painted stone as a good luck charm, how she had told her granddaughter, "If you ever get lost, follow the light and Grandma will guide you home." How Lily had followed a butterfly and slipped down a slope and ended up in a hidden alcove where she stayed calm and waited for rescue. How the search team's flashlights had been visible from her shelter. How she had held that stone for 48 hours, believing her grandmother would find her. And at the end of the interview, Maria Santos asked the question that America wanted answered. "Lily, do you blame your grandmother for what happened? Are you angry at her for letting go of your hand?" Lily looked up at Evelyn with those clear blue eyes that had seen more than any 8-year-old should see. She shook her head firmly. "No. Grandma didn't do anything wrong. I walked away because I wanted to see the butterfly. That was my choice. And Grandma is the reason I'm alive. She taught me what to do. She gave me my lucky stone. She told me to follow the lights. Grandma saved me." The vindication of Evelyn Turner happened overnight. The same media outlets that had crucified her as a negligent, reckless old woman who should never have been near children suddenly pivoted completely. Grandmother's wisdom saved missing child. The red stone that gave hope. Lily credits grandmother for survival. Family reconciles after Yosemite Miracle. The narrative shifted from blame to praise, from accusation to celebration. It was whiplash-inducing and frankly disgusting to watch, but at least it meant that Evelyn could walk down the street without being threatened. At least it meant the hate mail stopped. At least it meant she could start healing. As for me, I was quietly reinstated to my position as park ranger about a month after Lily was found. The FBI concluded their investigation with a report that stated no negligence or wrongdoing was found in the actions of Ranger Jock Lawson or any other park personnel. The investigation determined that the disappearance was the result of an unfortunate combination of circumstances, that all protocols were followed appropriately, and that the successful rescue was due to excellent coordination between multiple agencies. In other words, I was cleared, but the damage to my reputation had been done. For weeks, I had been portrayed as the ranger who lost a child, the man who failed at his most basic responsibility. That stain doesn't wash off Isa Lee. I thought about quitting, thought about leaving Yosemite and finding some other career where I would unhave to look at the mist trail every day and remember those 48 hours of hell. But something made me stay. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was the need to prove that I was still good at my job. Maybe it was because I loved this place too much to let it go. Or maybe it was because I wanted to be there when Lily Turner came back. She did come back. 6 months later, the Turner family returned to Yosemite for a healing visit, to face the place where their lives had almost been destroyed and reclaim it as a place of joy rather than trauma. They hiked the mist trail again, all of them together, with me as their guide. Lily wore a different yellow raincoat. She carried a new pink backpack, and she held her grandmother's hand the entire way, by choice. When we reached the spot where she had disappeared, the mist zone where the waterfall creates its eternal rainbow, Lily stopped and looked around. She pointed to the rocky outcrop where she had slipped. "That's where I went. I followed the butterfly over there and then I couldn't find the trail. I tried to climb back up, but the rocks were too slippery. So I found the cave and waited. Just like Grandma told me, I held my stone, and I wasn't scared because I knew you were all looking for me." Evelyn knelt down beside her granddaughter, and they looked at each other with understanding that went deeper than words. "I will never let go of your hand again, Lily. Never. Not for any reason. I promise." Lily smiled that gap-toothed smile that had been on every news channel in America. "It's okay, Grandma. Even if you do, I know what to do now. Follow the light. You'll always guide me home." We completed the hike that day without incident. 23 tourists shared the trail with us, most of them completely unaware that this was the family from the news, the Yosemite Miracle. When we reached the top of the waterfall, Lily pulled the red-painted stone from her pocket, the same stone she had held for 48 hours, and she threw it into the rushing water. She said it was a thank you to the mountain for keeping her safe, a thank you to all the people who searched, a thank you to the lights that guided her home. 5 years have passed since that April day in 2009. Lily Turner is now 13 years old, a confident middle schooler who tells her story to youth groups and school assemblies about wilderness safety and staying calm in emergencies. She has become a junior ambassador for the National Park Service, encouraging families to explore nature while respecting its power. She wears a necklace with a small red stone pendant, a reminder of what she survived and what she learned. Evelyn Turner is 77 years old now. Her heart condition is stable, managed with medication and lifestyle changes. She and Heather have rebuilt their relationship into something stronger than it was before, forged in the fire of shared trauma and mutual forgiveness. They go hiking together regularly, shorter trails now, always with Lily, always with care. And Evelyn has become an advocate for older adults and outdoor recreation, speaking about how to balance ambition with safety, how to know your limitations, how to prepare for emergencies. Heather and David Turner have dedicated themselves to supporting search and rescue organizations in California. They fundraise for canine units, donate equipment to volunteer search teams, and speak at training events about what it's like to be the family waiting for news. They have turned their trauma into purpose, their grief into action, their near loss into gratitude. And me, I'm still a park ranger at Yosemite, still leading hikes up the mist trail, still counting heads every 15 minutes. But now I carry something extra in my pack, a small bag of painted stones, red with white dots, that I give to children on school group hikes. I tell them the story of Lily Turner, the brave girl who got lost and stayed calm and followed the light home. I teach them what to do if they ever get separated from their group. Stay put, stay visible, stay calm, and trust that people are looking for you. I give them their own lucky stones and tell them, if you ever get lost, hold this and remember you are never alone. Someone is always searching. Someone will always guide you home. The Yosemite Miracle changed many lives. It destroyed some temporarily and rebuilt others permanently. It taught us about blame and forgiveness, about media cruelty and public redemption, about the thin line between tragedy and miracle. But most of all, it taught us about the power of a grandmother's love, and the words she spoke to a child who would need them to survive. Follow the light. I will always guide you home. Today, Lily Turner is 24 years old. She graduated from college last year with a degree in environmental science. She works as a wilderness education coordinator for the Sierra Club, teaching young people about outdoor safety and conservation. She still wears the redstone necklace every single day, and she still visits her grandmother every week. The two of them going on walks together, holding hands like they did on that April morning in Yosemite when everything changed. Evelyn Turner passed away peacefully in her sleep last October, 3 months after her 82nd birthday. Her heart, which had been weak for so many years, simply gave out while she was dreaming. Lily was with her when it happened. They had been looking at old photo albums, laughing about memories, talking about that day on the mist trail like they did every April 14th. And Evelyn had said, as she always did, "I'm sorry I let go of your hand." my darling girl. I will always be sorry." And Lily had said, as she always did, "You saved my life, Grandma. You gave me the tools I needed. You taught me to follow the light. You never let go." Not really. At Evelyn's funeral, Lily spoke about the gift her grandmother had given her. Not just the painted stone, not just the words of wisdom, but the lesson that love is stronger than fear, that forgiveness is more powerful than blame, that hope can survive even in the darkest wilderness. She spoke about how her grandmother had been destroyed by public opinion for something that was unite her fault, how she had almost ended her own life out of guilt, but how she had found the strength to keep living, to keep loving, to keep guiding her granddaughter home, even from the distance of shame and exile. This is the story of Lily Turner and Evelyn Turner and 48 Hours That Changed Everything. It's a story about missing children and shocking revelations, about vanished kids who were found years later, about mysterious disappearances that ended in miracles. It's a true crime story, though the only crime was the cruelty of judgment without facts. It's a haunting story that still brings tears to the eyes of everyone who lived through it. And it is a story about how one small painted stone and one grandmother's love were enough to save a child's life and redeem a woman's name. The red stone Lily threw into vernal fall that day is long gone, carried away by the current, tumbled smooth by the endless flow of water. But its lesson remains. In the darkness, follow the light. When you're lost, hold on to Hopi. And remember that someone who loves you is always searching, always calling your name, always guiding you home. My name is Jack Lawson. I'm a park ranger at Yosemite National Park. And this is the story I will never forget, the story I will tell until the day I die. The story of how a missing child became a miracle and how a grandmother's love proved stronger than death itself. If you ever find yourself in Yosemite Valley, standing at the Mist Trail footbridge where the rainbow dances in the spray, look for a small memorial plaque that was placed there last November. It reads, "In memory of Evelyn Turner, who taught us all to follow the light and never stop believing in love. Your wisdom saved a life. Your courage inspired a nation. You will always guide us home." And if you listen closely on quiet mornings, when the mist is thick and the sun is just rising over Half Dome, you might hear the whisper of a grandmother's voice carried on the wind, speaking to every lost child who has ever been afraid. Hold on. Stay calm. Follow the light. I'm coming to find you. I will always come to find you. I will always guide you home.